Hi, Lee Thurburn here, and I am visiting today with Jackie Shapiro. And I want to bring Jackie on, but I just wanted you to see her name in big print here. She's the co-founder of Shapiro Hurst. And Jackie, I've known for, I don't know, I'm going to say 12 or 15 years. I met Jackie about that length of time ago doing some networking here in the Dallas area. And Jackie, when we first met 12 or 15 years ago, had you already gotten into the same business that you're in now? And by the way,
Yeah, I was. I was in credit repair at the time. I was working, it wasn't my own company at that time, but yeah, in the same industry.
I'm so tickled you could join us today. You've had such a great, I mean, I know a little bit about your story, which is why I wanted to invite you to share, because you've had a lot of successes, but going from being working for somebody else and starting your own company and the success that you've had, I thought that'd be just fun for people to, hear. So thank you for making time today to
Of course.
join me. So tell us a little bit about that journey. So you were working for a credit repair company, and how did you kind of decide to start your own thing?
Well, and we're going back a lot of years. But of course, my daughter at the time was still very young, and I was just working an inordinate amount of hours. I would be on the phone till it was almost obscene to be making client calls, while she was in the bath, while I was cooking dinner, whatever it was. And there came a point when Megan came up to me and she said, "Mom, do I not matter anymore?" And it just about ripped my heart out. And so I had gone to the people that I was working for and I said, "Hey, look, this is what's taken place. I need to take a minute off with her. I need to reconnect with my child. She's, more important than work." And at that time I was spending, 12, 14, 16 hours a day working. And so I took off one week. I took her to Disney World and had basically, just disconnected, and it was all about her. So I came back, and the first day back in the office, I got chewed out, up one way and down the other, and I was just livid, because I had explained what the circumstances were and why it was so important for me to take that one week off. But that was really, it's a moment I'm so incredibly grateful for, Lee, because that moment really was the catalyst that started my own journey, if you will.
Yeah. Well, so many people start businesses and find that it was an all-consuming, time-consuming thing. So when you left because you wanted more time, did you find that you were able to find the time, or were you kind of stuck in the same dilemma that a lot of entrepreneurs are, that they find their business just sucks a lot of the time out of their day? How did that work out for you?
Well, as far as the time constraints, that's such a great point for new entrepreneurs, because you see a lot of, and as you know, I work with entrepreneurs that on their business credit side as well as the personal and consumer side. And what I see a lot of times is that you've got entrepreneurs out there and they go, "I could do this better, I can do this bigger, and I can make more money and I can have more time." But that's really not the reality of the beginning stages of a business. It's like an infant. You still have to get up and feed it every 3 hours, when you have a baby. And a brand new burgeoning business is not much different. There's a lot of time and a lot of effort that goes into building that foundation. And I think that as far as new entrepreneurs, I see that that's overlooked a lot of times with the excitement of that new venture.
Okay. Well, before we get much farther into this, I've said credit repair or a couple of times, but why don't you give us a quick overview of what your company is all about? I mean, what exactly do you offer in the way of services to people?
So we started out with just predominantly credit repair. And when I was first introduced to this industry, Lee, I didn't know what credit repair was. But from the first conversation that I had about it, it just instantly, it was one of those instantaneous moments that just clicks with your brain. And so from that moment, what I started doing was looking at what do the clients really need? Because there are some circumstances where credit repair just isn't the right answer. It's just not. So what I did inside of Shapiro Hurst and my other companies was, and everything that I do is credit based. But what I really did was I looked at what are those niches? What are those real needs? And so while we have credit repair over here, we also have our consumer advocacy division, which I oversee on a daily basis. And that's if you came to me and you said, Jackie, I'm trying to buy this home. This new collection just hit my report. I need it gone yesterday. I'm supposed to close my home in 3 weeks. Can you help? Our consumer advocacy division is designed to do work in 30 days or less. So it's a very, very quick, very, I won't want to say instant, but it's very, very fast work that's permanent. We also help in optimization services. So if maybe your credit report looks good, there's always things in there that could help optimize those credit scores and get you in a better position to have better auto insurance rates, better home insurance rates, better loan rates, etc. And so, as we've grown, we've divisionalized these different services that we do. And of course, we do business credit services as well. But again, everything is credit based, but we look at each individual situation as what is going to be the best strategic solution for this individual and their needs to get them where they want to be.
Okay. So I'm going to go back and thank you for kind of covering all of that. I'm going to go back now to the formation of this company. So I know how it happened. When was the official start date of Shapiro Hurst?
2010.
Okay. And up to that point in time, was that the point? I mean, you were working for somebody else up until then. Is that correct? Or
yes.
So there wasn't a precursor company in between. Okay. So you have a partner, Jelaine Hurst. How did you and she decide to hook up, or how did that happen?
Funny story. So when I was recruited for the company prior to beginning the Shapiro Hurst adventure, Jelaine had been brought on as my assistant. I was building out an entire division for this company. And it was just, it got to the point, I have to have somebody else in the office. And Jelaine was hired. So I trained her and we worked really, really well together. And when that little event happened, Jelaine and I said, look, that's it. Would you like to come with me? So a few weeks later, she called me and she goes, yeah, I'm ready to do this thing. And so from there, I mean, the rest is kind of history. But yeah, Jelaine was actually hired as my assistant going into that part of her world after college.
Prior to the separation point with the company you were working for, had you and Jelaine had conversations about, hey, we could do this? I mean, was that an idea populating or in your head, or did none of that really thought process happen until you came to this break point?
Well, I had been approached several times by people who wanted to back me in starting my own corporate structure. And in fact, the guys that I had gone to work for, one of the gentlemen had asked me, why aren't you opening your own company? And at that time, I told him just very directly, look, I'm not ready to do that. There are some things I need to learn before I would be ready to take that step. So while it was something in the back of my mind, I knew that there were things that I knew I didn't know. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And I was at the point where I knew I didn't know some things and I needed to help educate myself to be a good business owner.
So when you started out, Was it an instant success hitting the ground running with a lot of clients, or did you have some difficulty sort of figuring out how to get clients? Describe the process of you learning how to go out and get clients and grow your business, or did that just naturally sort of happen as a result of the prior work experience that you had?
Well, I was already known in my field, and I've run my company from day one as we don't do cold calls. We're 100% referred business. And that's based on relationships and working from a high level of integrity, right? So you can't work on a referral-based business without having that in place. So the relationships that I had already cultivated and the people that knew me and that had worked with me very closely, it was just a natural shift for them to switch over to Shapiro Hurst. So that part wasn't that difficult.
So I'm guessing you didn't have to really contend, excuse me, with a like a non-compete or that sort of thing. You didn't have any of those sort of issues that you had to deal with?
No, I didn't have those roadblocks in my way, thankfully.
Okay. Okay. So the focus of your company, how has it evolved over time?
Great question. And I get this question sometimes from new entrepreneurs too. And, when we go into business, it tends to evolve, not necessarily as you envision that evolution. So you can look at your business today and say, okay, in 5 years, I want to have 5 offices and I want to service X number of clients. But a lot of times I think what isn't taken into consideration is that the business you're in today, that's not necessarily the same business you're going to be in 5 years from now. So unless you're watching the industry and you're watching the trends and you understand, what the emotional buying factors of your clients are and the cost value innovation that you bring to the table, unless you're really watching those things, you can say, hey, in 5 years, I want to be here, but that may very well not be where the market takes you or what the needs of the consumers are at that time.
So where did you plan to be in 5 years, and then compare that to where you were in 5 years?
So when I first started it out, there were 3 corporations, 3 LLCs. And I chose the LLC because I liked the tax benefits from it. And it was just a good structure for
Okay.
what I wanted to do. So I had the credit repair side, the consumer advocacy side, some of the trade line optimization things that we do, and the initial envisioning of how this would all operate when it first started was, okay, so the credit repair company will be over here and it's going to do its thing. The consumer advocacy arm, it'll do its thing for Shapiro Hurst, but it'll also be an affiliate source for other companies in the industry. And so will the third company. But as it evolved, what I found was that the natural evolution became that all of these integrated into Shapiro Hurst. And so what happened eventually was I wound up merging all of those 3 companies into one entity. So merging them together. But, like you say, when you first envision it, you have this scale of, okay, this is going to do this and this is going to do this, but it evolves. And then you find where that true sweet spot or that way that it runs most naturally, where that happens.
Okay. So give me a sense of scale, maybe in the form of employees. How many people do you have that are employees? And I'm going to be specific to like a W-2 type, and also maybe a 1099 if you run both. How many people actually work for you in essentially a full-time capacity?
Right now, I believe it's 11.
And are they all like W-2s, or there's a mix of?
Predominantly W-2. Yeah.
Okay. So how many locations do you have right now? Are you just DFW or do you have other locations?
So we have an office here. We have an office in Corpus Christi. We have an office in New Hampshire, and we now have. We're opening up Arizona as well.
So are these all corporate offices or are they some sort of a franchise or licensing operation? How do you do this?
No, I looked at that's a good one too. I looked at the franchising, looking at that long-term strategy. Um, but I found that the problem with the franchise idea is that with my name attached to it, it would it might take me a very long time to find the right type of person and not be picky about who would buy that franchise and how they would run it with my name on it. Uh, but here in Corpus are both corporate offices. New Hampshire's corporate office. Arizona is a satellite office at this point.
Okay, corporate office. And when you say satellite, what do you mean? Just it's not its own corporation?
It's not its own corporation. It's being filed as a foreign entity there, but that's all, paperwork in process.
Right. So basically, right now you have like the parent company and a couple of subsidiaries. Each one is its own subsidiary, wholly owned. And from a liability perspective, you protect yourself by having a couple of different corporate entities sort of in between you and whatever liability might happen. Is that kind of the thought process?
That would be correct. Yes.
Okay. So what do you see as the future? Are you on a path of, if not global domination, maybe at least U.S. domination? Or, I mean, what do you just, and that was sort of a joke, but I mean, really, what is your, where would you like to be in another 5 or 10 years? What do you see the future looking like?
So that is a really, really great question. I see the marketplace changing and the consumer needs changing, especially with the events over the last year. I think that we're going to have a lot of consumers in some very heavy laden debt and not knowing what to do. I've got some new projects that I'll be launching. So, we know each other very well. I don't sit still very well. So just, retiring, it really doesn't, that's really not my cup of tea. 5, 10 years, I'll be traveling predominantly, but I'll always be working and always be cultivating, what is needed out there, working to make an impact. But by the time the 10-year mark hits, I really want to have my legacy project not only up and running, but where we're seeing that difference in this next generation coming up.
So do you see in the interim opening a number of additional locations? And if so, what do you think that natural growth looks like right now? So you have Corpus, you have, I think you said New Jersey, I believe.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, and then you've got Arizona, right? So how many more do you see? What's the rate of opening? Where do you think the natural sort of saturation level would be? I mean, what does that look like over the next 5 or 10 years?
It'll be tremendous. Part of the work that we do is highly unique. There are people who try to do consumer advocacy work, but there's really only a few of us in the entire country that do it truly effectively. So from that standpoint and being able to duplicate myself in this specific arena, it's time intensive to train someone to do that effectively. But there's going to be a much broader U.S. presence for the company.
Okay. So looking back, inevitably, there are things we would do different. So knowing what you know now and looking back to the first few years, what would you do different now, knowing what you know now that you didn't know then?
Well, I think that, and this probably is not unique to my case, but having the right logistics in place is huge, especially if you're a growing company, and we're all using technology these days, but having the right technology that integrates, whether it's your CRM or your accounting, having everything flow seamlessly, that's, user friendly for your staff. And then, in the beginning, yes, I took care of the books, which I hated. I don't like accounting. So, finding those things to outsource where I could play more on my own strengths was very, very helpful for me. But if I could go back, I would have done a few things differently. I would have cultivated my resources inside my own industry more deeply in the very, very beginning, because there are, no matter what industry it is, there are going to be people who are established industry experts that all you have to do is ask, and they will answer questions. They will help you. They will put you on the right path. And so not letting anyone feel intimidating to you to be able to to make that ask. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no. Okay, fine. Go to the next best person that you can find. So I think deepening those relationships early on would have benefited me. I think diving more into my own self-education as far as, business, accounting, taxes, identifying, okay, where are my weaknesses? Where do I know they are? Learning from those, and then finding the other areas as I was learning. What else do I not know that I should know? And so that self-education, reading at least one book a month, and growing that foundation for me personally and as a business owner. If I'd have done that from day one, I think it would have been a little shorter of a journey.
What kind of experts do you have around you now? Because you've kind of answered, but not specifically in a sense.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you didn't dodge the answer. I mean, you sort of answered the question I'm going to ask next, but not with the kind of the specifics that I was going to ask. So, accountants and attorneys and coaches, these are all people that many business owners swear by and hire, and yet again, many don't hire. What do you have in the way of a support team around you that might have been good for you to have a little earlier?
So as far as industry experts, just to address the first part of your question, John Olsheimer, Matt Listra, I mean, the list, there's an incredible, I'm so very blessed that I have access and friendships with, some of the most recognized people across my industry, bar none, hands down. John is the #1 expert witness when it comes to credit in the country. And he's incredibly knowledgeable. So that's to answer the first part of the question. As far as some of those go-tos, and we do, again, feel very blessed. There's an expert summit that happens once a year. Out of about 70,000 people across the U.S., only 60 people have a seat at the table. And so I do feel very blessed to be among the group. As far as coaches, I think you have to be really careful. Are you following the right advice? Are you following the right person? Because you can look at someone today and say, they're doing so much better than I am, but maybe they're not really where you want to be going. So if you're looking for a coach, I think you have to be very careful on who you choose whose lead you're following, right? And at the end of the day, you really, I believe fully in listen to your gut instincts. And when you do, they tend to drive you very well.
So, okay. So do you have, is yours an industry where you have a need for close advisory relationships with accountants and attorneys, or do
Yeah,
you not? It is okay. So
yeah,
those are,
absolutely.
yeah. So those
So,
are. Go ahead.
and no, I was just going to say they're absolutely invaluable to have. We have business attorneys, uh, consumer rights attorneys, the CPAs, the accountants. So we try to not only surround our business with the professionals that is their area of expertise, and you hire professionals for a reason because their expertise is what you need. If you do taxes and you need somebody to fix credit, well, those two things don't, you know, one is going to know about taxes, one is going to know about credit. Doesn't mean you should try to go do your own taxes. I would always hire that out to a professional.
Gotcha. So the daily focus. How much of your time is or how do you divide your time between sort of daily operational needs and longer term vision and strategy, sort of thoughts or processes? How do you, because I'm sure both are important,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you divide your time up?
So between Jelaine and I, Jelaine, if you want to think about, and she and I have been great business partners, which is highly unusual, but you generally business partnerships butt heads a lot or they end badly. So if you're a new entrepreneur and you're watching this, make sure you know who you're getting into business with. But Jelaine is a fantastic tactician where I'm a great creative force that I bring to the company. So I do a lot of the visionary, coming up with new projects. My staff affectionately calls it Jackie's mad scientist mode, because if you walk in my office or whiteboards where I'll scribble stuff down and go, wow, that's a great idea. This would really work. Let me map this out. How does this look on the business modeling structure? How does this take care of the consumer's needs? What are the emotional buying factors? How do we bring cost value innovation? How do we do all of these things? What would be the logistical needs to make this happen? Does it make sense? So I spend time on the creative side. I am also, I make sure that all of the legal stuff is done, and, that the high level operations stuff is done, and helping our clients too. I still am on the phone every day with our clients and breaking down reports and dissecting scores. And, if a client or one of my girls runs into a really hard to solve problem, my door's always open, and I'm happy to get on the phone and work the client files today, and I don't see that ever stopping.
We have about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, and so I'd like in the remaining time, if you would please give your best piece of sage advice to a new entrepreneur thinking about getting into pretty much any business. What would be the thing that you would encourage them to be most careful, diligent, or prepared for? What would be your advice?
New entrepreneurs, read the E-Myth. It's a fabulous book that'll help you forward think your business. Also, look at blue ocean strategies that help you find blue oceans instead of red. Google it if you don't know what it is, and you'll understand it. And then get the reports. Look at things like IBIS World. Know what industry you're getting into. Are you passionate about it? Is this something that drives you every day? Can you wake up in the morning and feel excited about what you're going to do? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you're in the right place. Then you just need to find the right avenue to capitalize your passion to be able to make a good living for your family, and hopefully bring a legacy about for positive change long term.
Jackie, thank you. I love the fact that you mentioned Michael Gerber's book, E-Myth. There's, of course, two of them out there, the E-Myth original and E-Myth revisited.
Yes.
And Michael Gerber has a whole bunch of other books, but they're all founded on the concept of the E-Myth. And I'm sure you've read more than one, but
Yes.
Folks, that was a great suggestion that Jackie had. The E-Myth is a great book. Jackie, thank you so much for spending time today to share your journey. Folks, if you need help in the arena of credit repair, restoration, all that kind of stuff, Jackie's a great person to call, and she and her team will take great care of you. Jackie, thank you so much. And I'll look forward to having you come out and speak to the students at UTA again. You always do a wonderful job. They always love seeing and hearing from you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Have a great day, Lee.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.